All right, welcome back. Now we're at phase 3. So what we transitioned from phase 2 is we did an auto lease method where we give the dough a break, where we allow the gluten strands to form. And so now it's been past a half hour. So now we will go ahead and add the final ingredients to the mixing process, and that would be salt. So I usually use, so in this case, my formula calls for 17 grams of salt. I use either sea salt and buy a sea salt brand that has a low amount of sodium. You don't want to have, because if you start adding things that have too much sodium content, then by the time you put your ingredients on top, you have to account for all the sodium content you put, whether it's in the sauce or in your toppings, and then you'll end up having it'll be too salty, and you don't want that. So you want to balance out your sodium ingredients, so that way when you have the final product that you're making, it's a good balance of flavors, and it's not too salty. So I usually go with just over 2% or 2.5% of the whole baker's percentage, where it counts for salt. So this is 17 grams. So I'm going to start mixing this, and then I will gradually pour out the salt into the mixing bowl, and then when that's done, then I will start pouring out the extra virgin olive oil that counts for 13 grams. So extra virgin olive oil is very good, and that provides a good coating to the dough. So let's go. Let's get going. So I'm going to give you the view of where the mixture is. Here we go. Get closer. Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to start mixing. And you can tell, if you look closely, that the color is changed a little bit, because it's rested. It's starting to form the gluten strands. It's starting to develop a little bit. And so I started the mixing. Now I'm going to start pouring the rest of the salt here. Okay. And then I'll end it up with extra virgin olive oil. And this will be the final ingredient. So it's kind of taking that fluid in there. You just getting the rest of the drops in there. Okay, so it's forming for a little bit, and this will lead to the kneading phase soon, but I'm waiting for the fluid to formulate around all of the flour here. Okay, so now I'm going to start I'm going to transition it to the kneading phase, and that is level 2 here. And this will be for about, it depends, because this is not, this is a mid-sized mixer, so it's not real powerful, so it could be 15-20 minutes. If you did it by hand, it's definitely going to be 20 minutes, depending on how sticky it is and how much water hydration you're going with. So this is level 2, so now it's kneading. But I'm going to go ahead and go a little faster. I'm going to go to level 4. But with this one, it's mid-size, so I put weight on it. Oh, even the camera's shaking. So I do like a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi to 15 seconds. And then I bring it back to level 2. Because this motor is not, it's decent, but it's not real powerful. So I don't want to overload the power on this one, because it can only handle so much. It's just a mid-sized one. So I'm going to bring it back to level 2. There you go, no more shaking, camera. Alright, so this will be going for, and the closer you get to the final stage of the kneading process, the lighter and just the color gets lighter and more vibrant, and you can start to notice that when you're looking at the dough here. So eventually what I'll do is I eye it, but I time it. So I'm going to time it for 10 minutes first. And then at 10 minutes I check it, and then I usually do 5 more minutes-ish, and then I do a window pan test, and I'll show you that test after 15 minutes. So I'll see you later, because this is going to take a little bit of time. All right. See you then. All right. Bye. All right. Welcome back. So now I think we finished the kneading phase. I will show you what I do to verify that we're done with the kneading process. So what I basically do is at around 15 minutes time frame, I let it, you know, I stop it, and then I check it. I do a window pan test. And let me show you what that is. And what it does, the point of it is you're stretching the dough, and you're doing like a window pan test, where it's like a window pan where you're making sure it doesn't tear immediately. If it tears immediately, that means it's still not quite kneaded long enough. And so depends on what dough you're making, how much water, how wet it is. The wetter it is, the harder. So right now we're doing 66% hydration. Some people do like 70% and higher. That's way too high for pizzas as far as I'm concerned, but I usually go 65, 66, 67%. So the wetter the dough, the harder it will be to knead it. And some people do a stretch and fold technique where they just stretch it and fold it, and then they give it a break. And that's also, you could see that, you could look that up on YouTube with King Arthur Baking, or the Food Geek guy I mentioned, or other bakers do it. It's a very popular technique with baking, artisan baking. So let's go ahead and proceed. I'm gonna go ahead and show you the dough here, and it's much more vibrant. It's lighter. It's a smoother, like silky smoother dough. See how beautiful that dough looks right now? That's what it usually looks like when it's almost done kneading. I don't know if it is. We're gonna check it. Bring it down here from this hook, take it out. Just taking residual stuff off of it. Okay, so what I usually do is I take it out. This will be better. And I do a window pan like this. And you see it's not tearing. So I think it's pretty good to go ahead and put it on the floor, on the countertop, to start to get it to form into a giant ball. And then what I do is I give it another half hour, 20 minutes to half hour rest, so it could rise a little bit before I cut the pizza, or cut to the right amount of dough balls before I put it in a cold fermentation. So we're going to take this out. I think it's feeling pretty good. I don't like to waste anything. I like to put everything in there. Okay, so now I'm going to show you something I do. Peter Reinhardt does this. I don't usually like to, typically they teach you to add flour if it's still not quite done kneading or whatever, or when you need to form that giant dough ball before you let it rest and rise for 20, 30 minutes. What I do is I coat the solid surface with a thin layer of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. And that'll, and I usually put my hands on that to keep my hands moist. And you know, you don't want your hands to be too dry when you're putting this on the counter. Again, it's better to put it on a solid surface that's cool. So usually any kind of stone surface will work. But if you don't have that, they sell portable ones that you could mess around with. There's a thin layer of olive oil here. Now we're going to go ahead and put this. We don't need the. Let's get this out. This out of the way here. All right. So I'm going to get this out of here, scrape it out. Make sure I get every nook and cranny out of here. I don't want to waste anything. Yep, I just dropped it in there. That was beautiful. It usually doesn't happen that way. You usually have to do more work. Just get it, scrape a little bit more residual stuff. Don't want to waste anything because I'm trying to stick to that formula of that desired weight, baker's percentage. Yeah, the rest of it's hard. It's stuck on the side. So this will work. All right. All right, so I'm going to coat some of that olive oil on my hands. And I'm going to do a final kneading. This is how you knead. I'm not going to do too much because it looked pretty solid when I did the window pan test. That's how you typically knead. It takes a lot of force, but I don't think this requires much, and it's looking really solid and beautiful. So I'm going to just leave a ball. It's a ball. Now it's really reacting well, this flour mixture. And I'm going to go ahead and use one of my dough scrapers here. Just give it a nice giant dough ball shape. Change the lighting a little bit. Hope this is better. Okay. So it's in the shape of a ball, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it with a thin cloth. I'm going to let it rise for about 30 minutes. You could do it 20 minutes, but I do 30. I just like to give it a rest and just. So I'm going to cover it, and I'm going to wait 30 minutes. Set the timer. All right. So I will see you next time after this is done resting and rising for a little bit. And so that dough ball will expand a little bit. And when it's done expanding, it's going to be even more smoother as you touch the dough. It's going to be amazing. And then that's when we're ready to cut the dough ball, cut the different pieces for the desired dough balls that you want to create. So I'm going to cut for 2 pieces of the 16-inch ones, which are going to be 567 grams, which I'm targeting, and then hopefully I have 300 grams left over to form the 12-inch, not form it, but to form the actual dough ball for it. And then once I form the dough balls, then I will go ahead and put it in a dough container, but you could use any kind of thing you have. You could use it on a pan, a sheet pan, and a thicker sheet pan would be good. The only thing is you need to cover it. It has to be sealed. But I'll go over that later, and just to make sure you guys know what to do. So I'll see you next time after this is done resting for 30 minutes and rising. All right, bye.